Today's story was written by Reddit user, Teller of Tall Tales. Lorak Dunavok wandered out of his room and towards the warm light of his grandfather's study. His father and brother were on the other side of the planet, fighting the Tyranian invasion, leaving him in the care of his grandparents. He'd had a nightmare that the Tyranians had captured them and were slowly killing his father and brother. The terrified child slowly crawled into his grandfather's lap, the older avian letting out a soft chuckle at his grandchild's antics. "Another nightmare, kiddo." Lorak nodded as he hugged his grandfather's waist. His grandpa always made him feel safe when his world felt like it was falling apart. Lorak's grandfather nodded sympathetically and held the boy close, gently rocking him back and forth. Patting Lorak's back, he shifted in his chair and asked, "What's got you so worked up, my boy? Did you have a nightmare again?" Lorak simply nodded again, still clutching his grandfather tightly. He was too scared to speak and wanted his father and brother back home. Lorak's grandpa felt a tug in his heart and sighed softly, looking back on his life both in the military and beyond. "Lorak, do you remember when the Tyranians attacked Radalon?" Lorak nodded quietly before looking up at his grandfather. "They gassed the world capital. The broadcast said that millions died." Lorak's grandfather nodded sadly before setting his grandson on his knee. "Do you also remember what the survivors of that attack reported when they got home?" Lorak shook his head softly. He'd been too scared to watch the broadcast any longer. His grandfather crinkled his eyes in the comforting way only a grandfather could. "All across the city, people helped each other escape the things the gas made others into." The chain rattled around the shuttleport's door handles as Marty took a deep breath. He should be able to buy the people inside some time to evacuate if he was lucky. Picking up his Dane axe, he slowly turned to face the road behind him that led to the shuttleport's main entrance. He could see the tide of diseased monsters sprinting at him like some macabre marathon. Ripping his vague vizier from his neck, he wrapped it around his knuckles. As the screeching tide bore down on him, he smiled. After all, what is the loss of one life if it saves 100 more? Lorak gazed up at his grandfather's eyes, filled with disbelief and still moist with tears. His grandfather closed his eyes and nodded softly. "All over the city, as though by some previous agreement, dozens of people risked and even gave their lives to get others to safety." Stroking his grandson's head feathers, he asked, "Do you remember a few weeks ago when that car got hit by a hovercraft over on Clarence Street?" Lorak nodded, squeaking back. "It had its own emergency broadcast. Somebody was really hurt." His grandfather chuckled his approval at the boy's memory, though wished his life had been less hectic. "But they didn't die. Do you remember why?" Lorak shook his head. "Because somebody saw it happen and didn't just stand by." Carter heard an almighty bang just outside the ice cream parlour. He shot out of his seat, leaving the cute avian girl he was dating stunned in hers. He spotted the wreck in seconds and rushed over after spotting the dazed elderly alien in the hovercraft's driver's seat. With inhuman strength, he ripped the buckled door open and gently grabbed the alien's shoulders. His eyes widened a good margin as he checked their pulse and felt it shudder to a stop. Carter didn't even hesitate as he pulled the elderly alien from the driver's seat and began to administer CPR. He felt their ribs crack as he shouted, "Somebody call a fucking ambulance and help me out here!" Lorak gazed up at his grandpa with curious eyes. He was starting to feel less afraid as he nodded slightly. His grandfather gave him an approving head pat before gazing off into the distance. "A long time ago I was in the military, just like your father and brother. I almost died on my first deployment." Lorac's eyes widened as his grandfather told him one of his war stories. Grimdark Donavok lay wounded on a street in a city he didn't belong to. He wanted to cry as he desperately fought to stay awake. He had a wife and child at home he was about to leave behind. Suddenly, a shadow passed over him. He felt his time coming to an end. Then a thick pad of gauze was placed against his wound just as his hand fell away. Without the strength to open his eyes, he softly thanked the gods for whoever was treating his wounds, a soft voice calmly speaking to him through the entire thing. Deep breaths. This wound is gonna need some real patching up, but don't worry, I'll get you all patched up and you can go home. How's that sound? Grimdark couldn't hardly respond to the impossibly soft and kind voice, except to finally let himself cry. The kind voice simply replied, We'll get you home, friend. Don't even worry about it. Grimdark's chest heaved as he cried his fears away. He'd get to see his family again, and that's all that mattered to him. Lorac hugged his grandpa tightly, and his grandfather hugged him back, tears moistening old Grimdark's eyes. A human had saved me, even when we were fighting against them. You know what he told me, Lorac? The young boy shook his head. The human told me, when the world seems mean and scary, look for the helpers. Lorac, I know it's scary not having your brother and father at home, but there's not a doubt in my mind they'll make it home, because even on the battlefield, you'll find helpers, and so will they. Lorac yawned and nodded softly, slipping out of his grandfather's lap and heading for his room. Grimdark watched him go, with a slight wistfulness. He too was worried how his son and grandson were fighting, but he also knew in his heart that they'd make it home. After all, they were fighting alongside an entire race of helpers. Tauren and Berian Donavok were pinned down on the front and nearly out of ammunition. They'd said their prayers a long time ago, but now father and son just quietly embraced each other and awaited the inevitable. Then a war cry cut through the din of battle. Do you want to live forever? Then a group of guardian angels, 3 humans in ragged gear, leapt into the trench. One immediately slapped down their LMG's bipod before opening fire. The rest simply popped their rifles up and joined in on the suppressing fire. One grabbed Tauren's shoulder and shouted, Go, we'll hold 'em off while you get to the fallback point. Tauren and Berian needed no more encouragement, and as the humans slung covering fire downrange, they climbed the lip and ran for the friendly trench. As they dropped down, they heard one of the human commanders yelling for artillery. The last they saw of their saviours was one lone, bloody human manning a light machine gun until the first artillery shell landed, and they could see them no longer.